Hello, it's Eric here, and so first of all, my apologies for my absence over the last few days, and yeah, so it's because of personal business, and but I'm happy to pick up the videos now, and then so this video is about the illusion of self, and so the illusion of self. And the basic idea is that the argument is that there is no such thing as a self, yeah. And then in other words, we're saying that the subject-object duality argument is wrong, yeah. And it's not just my argument, actually it's a very famous argument proposed by neuroscientists such as Sam Harris and then Jay Garfield. And then so first of all, if you're going to talk about the illusion of self, that means the concept of self is wrong, then you have to define what is a self, yeah. So a self basically is a self is my own person, my own person is myself, and then everything else in the real world are objects that are outside my own person. So therefore you create this subject object duality. So the subject is myself, and then everything else in the real world is the object, And then, so that's the traditional argument of the subject-object duality. But the point, about the illusion of self argument is that there's no such thing as a self, yeah. And let me give you an example. So, for example, let's say I am, I consider myself my own person. So I'm the self. Let's say I'm looking at an object, and let's say I'm looking at a chair, yeah. So that the chair is the object, and then me is the self, yeah. And then, but what happens if I ask you to look at yourself, So if I'm looking at myself, then that means I am looking at myself. So myself is an object, but at the same time, I'm also looking at this object. So therefore, I'm also the self, yeah. So therefore, myself is an object, but myself is also the subject, And then so that creates a kind of a conundrum between what is a subject and what is an object, So therefore that immediately smashes the partition between subject and object, yeah. And it doesn't stop there, You can continue using one of those recursive hacks in one of my earlier videos, yeah. So let's say for example I'm looking at myself, yeah. So myself is both an object and also a subject, So let's say, for example, the objective myself is the level 1 self, yeah, and then the subjective myself is the level 2 self, yeah. So the level 2 self is looking at the level 1 self. So the level 1 self is the object, and the level 2 self is the subject, yeah. But what happens if somebody is looking at the level 2 self, yeah? So let's say there is a level 3 self, and the level 3 self is looking at the level 2 self. So now, this time, the level 2 self will become an object, and then the level 3 self will become a subject, And it doesn't stop there, You can continue with this, recursive argument. So let's say, for example, there is a level 4 self looking at a level 3 self. Then previously the level 3 self was the subject, but now the level 3 self becomes the object, and then the level 4 self becomes the subject, And it can continue to go on and on and on like this. Eventually you will find no distinction between, the objective self and the subjective self, yeah. So that completely smashes the subject-object duality, and that is, I think one of the strongest arguments for the illusion of self. That means that there is no such thing as my own self, my own personal person. Yeah, there's no such thing as that, And then, yeah. So you may ask, where does this idea come from? The subject-object duality. Where does this idea come from? I think it's very much related to a subject called phenomenology. Yeah, phenomenology. That means a personal experience can be expressed as some kind of a phenomenological observation, yeah. And that's a long word, yeah, but maybe we'll explain a little bit more about the phenomenology in a later video, yeah. All right, I'll see you then. Bye.